macro skills, writing has got to be the skill that second language learners find most difficult about. Writing in your own native language poses several challenges already. How much more if one has to write using their second language? Writing requires one to possess higher order thinking skills along with a good foundation of the lower order thinking skills. This makes writing a tough activity to do for someone who is learning a new language.
Writing is always considered as a complex venture. It is always a difficult activity. Learning this complexity will be the best avenue for the effective teaching of writing. One of the most significant lifelong skills that we as an educator should impart to our students is on how we can teach them to write effectively. When we teach our learners how to write, we should create a guarantee that we have chosen the most effective resources and support materials that are not just only aiding them in learning how to write, but as well as to effectively help our students to learn the skill. Our competency in writing compromising not just only over word choices, punctuation usage, sentence variations, and others that embodies effective cohesion and coherence, but additionally provides ways to structural and developmental arguments specifically at the macro and the micro level.
This lesson plan is for English 9 with the learning competency. Use literary devices and techniques to craft poetic forms. With the aforementioned learning competencies, the objective of this learning session are: first, identify literary devices and techniques through song interpretation. Second, demonstrate the ability to communicate inexpressible feelings towards loved one by writing a free verse poem. And number 3, construct a narrative poem using different literary devices and techniques. In the later part of this video, we will be discussing to you the activities in which these objectives has been realized.
The topic of this lesson plan is literary devices and techniques, which is defined as the various elements and techniques used in writing that construct the whole of your literary piece to create an intended perception of the text for the reader. The values that one is expected to acquire after this lesson is to develop emotional literacy through realizing the importance of using literary devices and techniques in crafting poetic forms. Crafting poetic forms is of great help in expressing our feelings, our thoughts, and ideas, and with the help of literary devices and techniques, we can express feelings that seem inexpressible with the use of plain words. Reference and materials are also included and should be written under the subject matter. The reference should be in APA format, and materials should include all the necessary materials and technology that will aid in the lesson.
The procedure part includes 5 subparts: classroom routine, activity proper, analysis abstraction, and application. The first subpart is dedicated to your pre-lecture activities or the preliminaries such as prayer or singing of the national anthem and the like.
The second subpart, or the activity proper, is for the review and the motivation. In the review, the teacher will recapitulate the previous lesson through conducting an oral recitation to ensure whether or not the students have recalled the previous discussion. For the motivation, we opt it to be done in group with the use of songs. As we all know, songs are poems with melody. Hence, songs will be a great way to capture the students' attention and to make them engage in the discussion. In this motivation, we made use of Taylor Swift's Red, and we chose this song since it contains several literary devices and techniques. What the students are tasked to do is to take note of the lines from the song that they found creative yet meaningful and that tickled their senses.
In the pre-writing phase, the teacher will let the students to take note of their observations. The technique used in this lesson plan is the use of note-taking, in which the students will take note of the lines from the song that they have found creative yet meaningful. It is reflected in the activity proper, where the students are tasked to take note of literary devices and techniques found and used in the song Red by Taylor Swift. This will give the students an idea on what the topic is about and what they are expected to write.
The analysis subpart should include guide questions that would rationalize the activity done. In this lesson plan, we asked the students to present their observations and reflections, and we'll ask the following questions. What is your favorite song and why? What are the reasons behind your observations and reflections? What do you think is the purpose of the writer in writing the song? Okay, by asking those questions, you can hear the students' ideas and perceptions. Also, you can add follow-up questions that will eventually lead them to discovering the topic.
The abstraction subpart includes the discussion of the lesson. This lesson plan uses inductive approach in discussion in which the teacher will present an example before discussing. The example used in this lesson plan is some excerpts from F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. After explaining the example, the teacher will proceed to the discussion of the literary devices and techniques with corresponding example sentences. Questions will be raised at the end of the discussion to make sure that the students fully grasp the concept of the lesson.
Moving on to the last subpart of the procedure, which is the application, the students will write a narrative poem. We choose this type of activity in order for the students to practice their writing skills. We believe that the best way to teach writing to students is to expose them to several writing activities and provide effective feedback in every writing activity in order for the students to monitor their progress.
Also, students should make use of the journalist questions when writing in order for them to stay in track of their chosen topic. In the writing phase, the teacher will let the students outline their piece by answering the 5 W's and 1 H. The technique used in this lesson plan is the use of journalist questions, in which the students will ask themselves about the 6 questions that journalists usually ask to explore the topic they prefer. Students may ask and answer the who, what, where, when, why, and how questions to develop an idea on what to write, and to use these questions to clarify important points in case the writer gets confused in the writing phase. For example, they can ask themselves the following. Who is the one speaking in the poem? What is the poem all about? Where will the poem take place? When will it happen? Why am I writing this poem? How do I present my ideas to my audience? In the application, the students should ask these questions to themselves in order for them to stay in track of their chosen topic. Students may have the freedom to choose on what to write, but it is important to note that even though they are free as a bird, they should check on these questions at times to avoid being lost and confused.
The next part of this lesson plan is the assessment. In this lesson plan, the assessment is done by group, wherein each group is tasked to highlight and identify the literary devices and techniques presented in Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken. We use this activity as an assessment to allow the students to brainstorm their ideas within their group. And we choose the poem, The Road Not Taken, since it contains significant lines that are very creatively written and meaningful as well. The technique used in this activity is giving feedback. In post-writing phase, the teacher will provide necessary feedbacks in order for the students to improve their writing skills in the future. Once again, the technique used in this lesson plan is giving feedback, in which the teachers and peers will provide feedback on one's written piece. It is reflected in the application and assessment, where the teachers and peers will provide feedbacks on the outputs, respectively. This would help students check their own skills, promoting personal and professional growth as a writer, and this will also serve as an inspiration for them to perform better in the future.
Lastly, the assignment part. We made use of the activity called Flex Your Feelings. In this activity, students are tasked to create free verse poem with the use of literary devices and techniques. The purpose of this poem is to express the students' inexpressible feelings towards a loved one. And since people nowadays are using social networking sites to communicate with other people, hence the written poem should be sent to the person through text, chat, or direct messages. After sending the poem to the recipient, the student should provide a screenshot of the message and the recipient's response and paste it in an A4 bond paper to be submitted the next day.
The approach used in this lesson plan is the social expressivist approach, which contradicts a grammar-centered curriculum, emphasizing that students learn to express their voice, their personal needs, interests, and ideas in a social context, assuming an audience in mind. This approach helps the teachers in teaching students to realize and disclose their unique perspectives in the world.
More so, this approach is useful in an EFL classroom since it makes the composition more focused, relevant, and meaningful. In the context of literature and poetry, English learners need to develop their own voice to express themselves and important social ideas for assuming an audience. In this lesson plan, the teacher will let the students compose a poem with a topic of their choice. This allows the students to express themselves and their ideas. Through this, the teacher will be able to know the students' perspective of the world and be able to hear their thoughts.
The method used in this lesson plan is the free writing method. In this method, the students are free to write any concepts that they wish to write. This method will increase the flow of ideas of the learners because it does not demand any conventions in terms of grammar. The primary objective of formulating this method is to intentionally help writers in generating ideas in any form of writing.
In this lesson plan, the function of the method could be observed in the assignment part, in which the students are tasked to create a free verse poem applying different literary devices and techniques. Through this, the students could have a logical liberty of ideas because it is about poetry and the words that they use cannot delimit their desired outcomes. Hence, this would practice their writing skills and concept making with the use of literary devices, of course.
Writing may be difficult for the learners given that it is considered to be the most difficult skill to master, especially for second language learners. But with the help and the guidance of the teachers in the writing process, learners may perceive this difficult task as something fun and enjoyable. Thus, teachers should act as a guide on the side and provide effective feedback which will clear out the students' confusions and frustrations in order to yield positive results and achieve the goal in teaching writing.